All right, Ezra 8, let's call this one Be the Reason for Trust, as we are going to look at the genealogy of those who are going to go back with Ezra in this wave of returning exiles. Not only is it going to give us the genealogy, it's going to help us understand that Ezra realized, wait, we're lacking Levites. And so he is going to pause the entire expedition to go get Levites, people who are competent to carry back some of the things to which the king has entrusted him, specifically the vessels for the house of God. But he's not only going to realize that he is lacking Levites, he is going to realize he is lacking security, but he is going to be too ashamed to ask the king for a security detail since he has talked up the ways in which God helps those who seek him. And so he is going to instead fast and pray and have the people going with him fast for safe travel and safe delivery of the goods that the king once again has entrusted to him. And he's not going to just pray. Part of the reason why he sent back for those Levites is he is going to measure out to them the things that the king has given them for safe transport, specifically noting that the things are holy and thus the Levites have been set apart as holy for transporting them. And the good news is the fasting and the prayer is going to pay off. Not only are they going to get there safely, understanding that the chapter is going to describe that they have to go through lands with bandits and robbers and other dangers. They're going to be delivered through that, and all of their goods are going to be intact, as well as the chapter describes the ways in which the Levites who carried the goods back to Jerusalem are going to effectively deliver them and measure them out to the priests and Levites already at work in Jerusalem. And at the end, once again, as we often see, when God has delivered people in situations where he had made no promises to them, but was kind to them anyway, they show thanks by offering up burnt offerings and sacrifices at the end of the chapter. And likewise, having delivered the goods to the priests, they are going to deliver Artaxerxes' letters to his servants, and his servants are going to be diligent in helping out, like we saw with the servants in the days of Darius. And so the way that King Artaxerxes' servants are described as helping out the people of Israel at the end of this chapter reminded me of what we talked about in the last chapter, that the king is not going to be the one carrying stones and driving nails. And so Ezra is going to need the king's servants to be trustworthy so that he doesn't simply have the favor of the king, but he has a good working relationship with the king's servants. But Ezra doesn't simply need the king's servants to be trustworthy. He stops this entire expedition to make sure that he has people in his own camp who are trustworthy to take care of the things that the king has entrusted to him. Understanding that much like King Artaxerxes is not going to be driving nails himself, Ezra is not going to be carrying all the gold, the silver, and the fineries himself. And so he needs people he can trust, because even though this is not the kind of project that the king is necessarily expecting a financial return on investment for, he has put his own money into this. And so one of the ways that they can show a return on investment, even if it's not with getting money back to the king, it's making sure that the things that the king has entrusted to them actually get to where they need to be and eventually become part of successfully building what the king sent them there to rebuild. And so understand how Ezra making sure that those things actually did get there effectively are really important because of unforeseen circumstances he's going to run into when he actually gets to Jerusalem, understanding that all of the time he took to make sure that holy people were up to the task of effectively transporting the holy things is going to be a huge contrast to what his inquiry finds in Jerusalem after he realizes that the land has been mismanaged by people who were not trustworthy to run it effectively. And so the extra time that he took to make sure that the gold, the silver, the provisions, and the money were all transported effectively are hopefully going to buy him a line of patience with the king, who a leader by the name of Nehemiah is going to have to go back to ask for even more assistance. And so the diligence that Ezra has shown in trying to effectively get the king's things transported to Israel is going to have everything to do with whether or not Nehemiah's future requests are going to look like genuine need or simply a violation of a previous trust. And so when Ezra left, he likely had no idea that out of all that the king had already given him, he would eventually need more. But the way that Ezra handled the things that the king entrusted to him made sure that he was the reason that when Israel needed more, the king was willing to give more.